Greetings, everybody. Give us a quick second as we are advertising this out, and then we'll get things started. Sorry, guys, no pre-show today. We actually had some holiday plans to work out, so let's see with the join the fun. There we go. Let's see. I'll make sure I put all this in. There we go. Hope everybody had an awesome week, a couple of weeks actually, because we were not here. And really quick to address that before we get started, somebody was actually asking if we are going to have any footage from Anime Bonsai. Technically, stuff was recorded. I do not know how it's going to be uploaded or anything like that. Technically, Romney and Alex have it. So my idea here, at least for the moment, is to say you guys handle it because you guys recorded it. Because right now I've got way too much on my hands.
Yeah, that's kind of more or less how things have been playing out. Is basically, yeah,
I hate to be that lazy, guys. I really do, but I have got way too much on my plate right now.
Yeah,
way too much.
Yeah, I mean, especially with two little girls, that's like that plate has already been filled up with that alone. Everything else is overflowing.
And what makes that worse is that, like, a lot of people don't understand, like, how is that so bad? It's an infant and a toddler. A toddler who still kind of has a dependency on her parents, but is trying to be independent. And then you have an infant who's wholly dependent on you. Now, you remember how I said that they try to be independent? Mine isn't. Mine is a weird baby. She likes her comfort zone. Alex can attest to this. She is a toddler who loves her comfort zone. And so at that point, you have basically two kids that are entirely dependent. That's what makes it so difficult. That's what makes Diaper Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. And I think we are good. So let's go ahead and actually, you know what? At 8 o'clock, we will go ahead and start this up and we will record. And you guys are in for a world of stupid tonight. I'm not even going to lie. Like, there's so much stupid to cover. Like, I don't even want to tease it because we're going to have some fun tonight just talking about how the world is stupid around us.
Yeah, World of Stupid. That just sounds like the name of an MMO set in the world of Idiocracy.
It really does, doesn't it?
Yep. I mean, you probably could get Terry Crews to reprise his role. I mean, he's done it before.
Oh, I'm trying to remember the name of the president. It was like something Montendu Camacho.
Something like that. I haven't actually seen the movie. It's just I've seen all the memes.
I remember one of the podcasts that I used to follow that isn't around anymore. One of the panelists could literally quote the entire name. And like at that point, I knew what it was, like, constantly, because I'd always hear him saying it. But now that I haven't seen that podcast or seen Idiocracy in a while, it's just not there.
Yeah, of course, how would you really make that as an MMO? I mean, would it basically be, well, I guess technically you would basically have SimCity, but EA tried that before. It didn't really work.
You're already having consensus this year that there ought to be a Ready Player One MMO, and I'm already telling you that can't work.
Ready Player One, aka Sword Art Online for people who like the 80s and America.
Well, like, everybody wants to be able to reference everything in that MMO, and I'm just looking everybody in the eye and saying you can't do that. There's no way that you can get this many companies to agree.
Nope.
Without massive royalties.
Yeah, I think the only one that would really say yes would be Rooster Teeth and maybe Bandai, but then Bandai would be like, okay, we'll let you use the RX-78, but we basically control everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which, and again, a Gundam MMO, people would play it.
Yes, they would. All right, so it is 8 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get things started. Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk about the week's events in Geek for Friday night, October 26th, 2018. The holidays are literally around the corner for us as we get ready to start up Halloween. I can already tell you guys at my local Walmart, the Christmas trees are out. And that's how you know that the holiday insanity has begun. And of course, I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's had a nice couple of weeks because if people didn't know this, I did get those messages occasionally. Why weren't we here recording on Friday night? I thought we were going to come back and be more consistent. We actually were at a convention last week, and we were hosting a panel at Anime Bonsai 2018. We did record footage for it. I'm not sure how that's going to be handled. We'll get that to you guys as soon as we know. But in the meantime, I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac, and I hope everybody's had an awesome couple of weeks. And of course, I'm being joined by my panel of regular geeks, awesome guys, awesome content creators, awesome thinkers, awesome, amazing dudes. I'm running out of things to add awesome to, and if you guys aren't following them on YouTube, you should be, damn it. And let's go ahead and introduce them. We have Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah, of From the Shelf, Rhapsody in Cinema, and I think if I mention Monster Clash, he will go into a coma that will literally last 6 months. Romney, how you doing?
Well, wouldn't really be a coma, probably just more of a rage seizure, because of how long things have been taking to actually get the videos made, but there will be more on that once the videos are released.
And somebody out there is going to be like, ah, damn it, I thought he was going to bring out the pillow again. No.
Again, I've been going to therapy. I don't need the pillow anymore.
And also joining us is the Shadow Blazer himself, who has decided to grace us out of the shadows and out of the loving, warm embrace of his Black Rose and Princess Principal pictures behind him. Alex, the Shadow Blazer, how are you doing, my friend?
Black Rose isn't behind me anymore, so that doesn't really work. But at least you got the show finally. You finally got it.
Well, I could do the clarification like I did last week, but a lot of people didn't like that. It was like, dude, it's not Pal. It's not Principal. It's I know.
East joke.
But I do like the wonderful conspiracy theory that a friend of mine has is that Black Rose is actually still there. It's just on the other side of the door of the closet directly behind your head. So it's Black Rose is forever with us.
It's on the wall adjacent to me, so
Black Rose is forever watching him. Yes,
it's still around. Now I actually just found out that pretty much all my group of friends, namely everyone who's just online, because that's the only friends I have left, they're all on vacation. They're all on vacation of some kind right now. One is seeing my other set of friends, and I don't know where the other's going right now, but everybody's away, so I'm here all by myself. So I think this picture perfectly summarizes my feelings right now.
Well, I mean, I'd hang out with you, dude, but that would mean changing diapers here. So if you want the extra work, then I mean, we could do that. Would that work? I don't think so. Oh, well.
I think so.
Yeah, for the viewers listening to this after the fact, the picture was of an anime girl cuddling a kitten and crying.
Make sure you send the picture to me so that we can put it up in the RSS feed. And tonight we have plenty of stories that are kind of intermixed. We're not even going to have like an entertainment and a tech portion of the evening because all of these have a little bit of both in them. But I'm just going to go ahead and warn people in advance. This week, I was very tempted to title this episode Bring on the Stupid or Dare to be Stupid. All right. The only reason that I was worried about it is because I didn't want people to get the wrong idea. And I actually wasn't sure if Weird Al would then claim, or at least Weird Al's lawyers would then claim the video. And so at that point, thankfully, Romney has clarified this for me. But who knows? Maybe that'll actually be the title of the RSS feed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much Weird Al himself you have to worry about, but the record label that he's no longer with. As many people recall, Mandatory Fun was his last studio album, and he's since gone into voice acting and writing children's books. I mean, most notably, Milo Murphy's Law is the show that he's the main voice on, so...
Yeah, so at that point, just to kind of warn people in advance, there is plenty of stupid tonight on the podcast. There's pretty much at least one person in each story is being stupid or will be stupid in the future. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the stupid.
I guess a better episode title could be Send in the Clowns. Wait, they're already here.
Don't bother. They're here.
I'd love to. I think that wouldn't get past the character limit on the RSS feed, but I will double check that for me. Like write that out to me, Romney, and we'll see if we can make it work. So our first story tonight isn't technically a story, but the only reason that I'm bringing it up here is not only because a listener brought it up and had some interesting speculation for it, but for me, I'm sitting here wondering why this stupid even exists anymore. Remember, I'm the old fart of the podcast, and some things we should have learned by now, but apparently we didn't. And so let's go ahead and get into it. In case people didn't know, Ubisoft teamed with Totino's Pizza to do an advertising campaign with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which basically allows for you to be able to get a bunch of codes on Totino's products, to be able to get experience boosts, cosmetic items, mostly experience boosts, and actually can win an Xbox One. I believe it's an Xbox One X, but I'm not 100% certain. Not even Totino's site is clear on this, and trying to get Ubisoft to comment on anything is like trying to pull teeth or trying to talk to EA. Wait, same thing. Never mind. So with that, what's the purpose of the story, guys? It's very simple. In order to be able to claim these things, codes were put on the bags or boxes of Totino's pizza rolls, mini pizzas, everything like that. And where the stupid lies is the fact that they decided to not even try to protect the codes at all. And I wish I could have found an image for this, but thankfully, I'll even put a link to Sid Alpha's video, because he actually put up a link of his bag of Totino's pizza rolls for this. But they basically put the codes blatantly right on the bag, not even protected. Like, you don't have to do the whole scratching with a penny to get the codes off or anything like that. It's just blatantly right there on the bag. And I'm just sitting here dumbfounded, because we live in an era where even a 5-year-old has what I have in my hand, which is my iPhone, and can take pictures of it.
Sheesh, I mean, at least Red Baron puts it on the inside of the package.
Well, not just Red Baron, like a bunch of other companies, like when they do these deals, they'll put it inside the box, they'll put it inside the actual packaging of the product. So like within the plastic wrap, they'll put a little piece of paper that has the code on it. So you have to open the box to be able to get it. But no, Totino's didn't give two craps, or Ubisoft didn't give two craps. Let's just go with both of them. That works. And neither one of them wanted to actually, try this time around. And what gets even better, unfortunately, this is why there kind of isn't any story, because everything that I've heard on this is pure speculation, and every bit of evidence that there might have been has been removed. Because supposedly, people are trying to cash in their codes, and they're not working. And so when people reached out to Totino's and Ubisoft, I believe Totino's was the only one that made a response, supposedly. And I tried to look for the tweet, and it apparently isn't there anymore. But it was basically a non-apology of, "Dear customer, sorry, not sorry."
Okay.
Congratulations, Totino's and Ubisoft. Did this deal work out super well for you? Because I have a feeling if people are already complaining, you're going to get a lot more complaints. Especially when you offered an experience boost, which, from what I understand, I kind of wish we had Brent in here tonight, because I think he actually is playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Experience boosts are very helpful, because they actually take the experience requirements and make them normal instead of making them horrendous. Wow. Okay. Thoughts on this, you two? I thought we were done with this level of BS.
Honestly, it's because we've entered a new horizon with the way promotions work. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, why are they doing a cross-promotion with Totino's? forgetting the fact that there was a paid product placement for Cup Noodle in Final Fantasy 15. We're well past the idea of this being new.
Had a similar problem.
Plus, I've seen Totino's really like try to cater their commercials to like the gamer crowd. It's like got like the VR guy, like dude with a VR headset, or the gamer girl who comes home and sits down with some Totino's and her boyfriend.
I am not sure, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. Like,
I mean,
commercials. I'm not speculating. I've seen those commercials.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the way a lot of companies have been trying to promote their products now. I mean, we all remember how Mountain Dew tried to posit itself as gamer fuel, first with Halo, then there was the tie-in with World of Warcraft. It's just, there's a demographic that these companies are trying to reach, and what better product than literally a product that barely qualifies as food that you can microwave in about a few minutes to eat.
But at that point, I'm going to bring this up because I've done the gamer fuel. I don't know about you guys if you guys have, but I know at least with Mountain Dew and Doritos and everything like that, the codes were put at a point. Were put in a point where you would have to open the product or you would have to buy it to be able to get it. So, like in the case of the Mountain Dew, especially with like the World of Warcraft one, you had to peel the label off, and the code was behind it. So at that point, you would have had to do damage to that, and therefore the store would have had to claim you break it, you bought it, kind of thing. Or in the case of Doritos, when they did that, like they just had a tiny little package within the bag that would give you your World of Warcraft code or your Call of Duty code, kind of thing. This is right on the box.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably what it was, is that they weren't paying attention, and more likely they're thinking, we know we're going to get made fun of with this, so why even bother? We're just going to I mean, are we really? All right, I guess we'll print it. Just print it on the packaging. I don't want to print it on the end.
We got the money.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we got the deal. Yeah, let make the commercials. Do whatever you want, man. I don't care.
And currently Alex has an image of Steve Buscemi saying, "How do you do, fellow kids?" Tell me, Alex, are you trying to sound more human?
Trying to sound more human and be hip with the young people.
Exactly. Dude, literally, this reminded me of a story. This is just old fart stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and tell this story on here because this is how stupid this story is. Because guys, like if you've literally not accounted for the fact that the human mind can be a devious SOB at times, you deserve to get screwed. Okay. Especially if you bought these Totino's pizza rolls and immediately assumed that code was still going to work. Back when, I want to say late teens, early 20s, I was working for an inventory company. So like the company that would go in, and Alex would hate us because we would come into his company at off hours, which means he has to now work all night while we do an inventory of his company. And one early morning, I was doing an inventory for Albertsons, and wow, Albertsons used to be a thing. Actually, it is a thing in different states. But I was actually doing inventory for the frozen food aisle. And I can't remember, I could not tell you what the game was. I think it was one of those really lame on like internet games that were coming out at the time. So like the Chex one or stuff like that. But there was a deal going on with what's the TV dinner that everybody knows? Not oh crap. The one with the little penguin on it.
What?
The one with the little penguin on it. The
Club Penguin?
No, not Club Penguin. The TV dinners that have like the little penguin on it.
Oh yeah, Kids Cuisine.
Kids Cuisine. So Kids Cuisine was running a deal on one of these online games. And so all we were doing was doing inventory. Okay. We didn't necessarily exist as employees of this company. We were independent contractors doing a task for them. And I literally noticed as time went on and I was doing the frozen food aisle, and it was a pretty big aisle, that there were like 3 little kids sitting at one particular door in the frozen food aisle. And normally that wouldn't bother me because they had this weird deal where they would leave and then come back. The only way that it bothered me was that one of the kids was super skinny and was starting to get really cold. And so he was starting to shiver. What I didn't know until I got a little bit closer was they had a pen and paper, like a little notebook, and they were writing, because again, the codes were on the damn box. they were literally writing the codes onto this piece of paper and then leaving and coming back so nobody would get the wiser on them. I didn't even tell the Albertsons employees that happened because you know what? That's on you, Kids Cuisine. It's like if kids can literally outthink you in how to exploit this, you deserve it. As far as I'm concerned. And with that being said, is anybody here motivated to instantly go out and hoard a bunch of codes for Assassin's Creed Odyssey so that a bunch of players can get mad at us for their mad XP games?
Unlikely they'll be all redeemed, so no.
I'll admit, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to write down those codes and immediately sell them online because Totino's, you deserve it.
Problem is, given how late we are in reporting this story, the opportunity to do that...
I'm pretty sure, like, warehouse workers, if they could have exploited them, they probably would have by now.
Yeah, and not even would have. They probably have by now. I mean, it's very much a done deal at this point, where anyone who already knew of the exploit, it's like a case of, we've only discovered, oh, hey, there might be gold in them mountains, in them there hills, whereas everyone else has already mined the vein and reclaimed the land so that it looks like it was never mined. So it's like we're not even headed towards the Sierra Madre. It's been cleaned out.
But Jiminy Christmas, well done, Ubisoft and Totino's Pizza. You have basically screwed yourselves. And I guess we have no one else to thank but you. So why don't you go ahead and give each other a good old pat on the butt?
Well, honestly, all things considered, is it really that surprising? I mean, sadly, some companies follow the adage of any publicity is good publicity. So if anything, Ubisoft, I mean, for all I know, they probably would have said, we'll patch out this problem in another update.
I'm surprised
not realizing that they can update pizza rolls.
I'm surprised that considering that, you know, what we're dealing with in the gaming industry right now, I'm surprised that the codes didn't immediately lead to a discounted microtransaction. I'm surprised, honestly, guys, that they were free.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably the more dumb decision. They should have just made it discounted, because then they would still at least get some money.
Yeah, and from what I can tell, these codes are all free, so you get that free XP boost, and that's supposed to encourage you to go and do the microtransactions in the game. No, it encourages you to go out and get more Totino's pizza rolls. That's what it encourages you to do.
Which, I mean, that's kind of the point. You either pay the microtransactions or you buy more barely edible pizza rolls.
From what I understand, Odyssey heavily encourages you to purchase XP boosts in the game. So I'm kind of surprised that most of them aren't XP boosts and you can purchase them for about half price. You know, give them a little bit before you get them hooked on the microtransactions. Come on, guys. Ubisoft. And Ubisoft, as far as I'm concerned, like Activision compared to Ubisoft and EA might in fact still actually have a soul. All right? But Ubisoft and EA, nah, they sold them years ago. And the only reason I'm saying Activision might have a soul is because Blizzard. That's it.
Yeah, it's not that so much that they lost their souls. The soul's locked behind a paywall. That's why.
I actually like how that was said. Final thoughts on this one before we get into even more stupid tonight.
I'm tempted to make a bunch of Harry Plinkett jokes, but honestly, I can't do the voice. There's just no way to do it.
Alex, do you have any more statements to make you sound more human?
No, I do not, fellow human.
Man. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on into the next story here. And unfortunately, the story link that we actually found wouldn't work for me unless I opted into a couple of programs. So I opted to find a different story for it. But in case people didn't know this, Shadow of the Tomb Raider has come out. From what I understand, the reviews are fairly high on it. I have not seen them just because I plan on doing a review myself for it. But a bunch of people are pissed right now at Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Why is that if it's reviewing so well? It's not necessarily that the game is bad. It's just that, well, advertising and overall holiday preparation have pissed off a lot of the early adopters and the people who are dedicated to support the Tomb Raider franchise. What I mean is that, unfortunately, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, 3 weeks after its initial release, is now officially on sale. I know it's on sale at Steam, but I didn't see any other sites that it was on sale at. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a discount coming in for it. And because the more dedicated early adopters paid their full $60, they're pissed that the game is already on sale. And some have retaliated by review bombing it and immediately saying that it's a horrible game and all because of the fact that it went on sale. And some people are just being outright stupid about it. Whereas, I don't know about you guys, I looked at it and went, okay, well, 3 weeks in, that's a little disconcerting. But, oh, wait, what month are we in the year? It's October, which means the holiday sales are literally around the corner. So maybe it's not necessarily that Square Enix is trying to screw you. It's just that they're trying to get into the Black Friday mode. So with that, any other additional details you guys want to add on this one?
Honestly, if they really wanted to get the jump, why not just push the release date back closer to Black Friday at this point?
That's really what they should have done.
Yeah, because honestly, that would have been a better way to go. Instead of like, oh, we're going to release it ahead of time and mark it down later. It's like, why not just push down the release and then release it closer to Black Friday?
I'm trying to think, like, what games coming out? The only one that has that advantage for Black Friday is either Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee edition. So Nintendo planned that out pretty well. And oh my gosh, Darksiders 3 had the foresight because that's coming out probably the week of Black Friday. Holy crap, THQ Nordic had more forethought on this than Square Enix.
Well, they probably learned their lesson when, the Horsemen of War accidentally appeared too early and caused the entire problem of the franchise. So they realized, well, I mean, we did kind of tell a story about what happens when someone blows their load too early and arrives long before they're supposed to. Let's maybe not repeat that.
Now, before people jump down my throat, I'm not necessarily knocking the fact that, do I think it's kind of dumb that Shadow of the Tomb Raider came out, it got fairly good reviews, and then all of a sudden it's on sale? Do I think it's necessarily a good idea, especially considering all of the people who pre-ordered and wanted to show their support for the franchise and all that, and they paid their $60? No, I really don't, but it's one of those things you kind of have to accept as gospel around this time of year, is that as soon as October kind of rolls around, that's when you start to see the sales on Steam, Humble Bundle, and all of those places, because this is where they need to start hooking people in so that after the Christmas shopping is done, they can encourage more people to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just kind of the way that they have to do it. And from what I understand, the sale was not that much. So it's a discount of 34% for the standard edition and 47% for the Croft edition. So maybe the Croft edition, it's like half price, but I have a feeling that Croft edition, without knowing its numbers off the top of my head, was pretty expensive. So at that point, is it really all that much that is being taken off of the Croft edition? I don't think so. So at that point, I mean, I feel bad for the early adopters, but this is kind of the risk that you play, especially with holiday releases.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of why we need to kind of temper the idea of buying things day one, because, yeah, a lot of people like to be those early adopters. They like to get all the story details before everyone else. But this is precisely why I hold off on buying new games. And that's for reasons like this is, oh, you never know when it's going to go on sale, or, oh, you never know when they're going to release an edition down the road that includes all the DLC, meaning you don't have to buy a season pass.
I don't know about you guys, but like my family has very strict traditions on this matter. Like if you want it and it's a game or if it's a movie that's coming out like around those times, you don't put it on you basically put it on your Christmas list, so to speak. And if it's on the Christmas list, you don't buy it. So at that point, it gives somebody a chance to be able to get something nice for you that, I mean, you have to wait an extra month, and I get why that's disappointing to a few people, but is my family the only one that does this? That they literally look at the holiday releases and just say, no, don't get it. This is stuff that we can get you.
Well, I know, speaking from experience, we don't do like the list per se, but we do kind of similar things with holiday releases, but also for birthdays especially.
Yeah.
Like birthdays, that's a case of where people are just like, hey, are you going to, like, we all literally like are upfront like, hey, are you planning on pre-ordering or getting anything that releases around your birthday? Okay, you're getting that? All right, I know not to get it for you. Of course, that was back when I would heavily pre-order stuff through GameStop. Back when I was not as a smart.
Yeah, I know, especially for. Sorry, Alex. We're gonna talk. We're gonna trash talk my wife for a second here, which is gonna be fun because I know she's watching live with the girls. So at that point, we're gonna trash talk you for a while, honey, in the fact that you are the hardest person to buy Christmas presents for. Why? Because you literally have to confirm with her. Have you bought it? Have you bought it? Okay, then I'm not getting it for you. Then you realize, oh yeah, she didn't buy it. Damn it!
Especially if it's Harry Potter related.
Harry Potter, if it's Pokemon related, if it's Digimon related, she's getting them. If it's Lego related, she'll get it. Kind of thing. So like if you try to confirm any of this stuff, like you have to plan things out in advance to be able to get it. Sorry, honey. I know I'm revealing a lot, but yeah, it's the hardest thing. Like the only person that I know of that rivals it is my own sister in the fact of, oh, are you going to get that game? Okay, then I'm not going to get that game for you. I will go this direction. Like you have to plan out the present. You take all the surprise out of it because you have to plan it out.
Yeah. Yeah, like I've had similar experiences. That's how I was for the Ace Attorney series for a while. But then there are times where I go the route of, yeah, and that's where I go kind of the route of, okay, let's do some detective work and get them something that we know they're interested in, but they're not expecting. And that's hard, not impossible. It just involves a little, okay, what if they've been watching on YouTube and kind of do like, oh, what if they've been looking for online and doing basically it's kind of like I should become a private detective with how far I have to go.
Well, and what's weird about my wife is literally like, see, we have these problems with buying because Alex, you have this problem with her, right? We're trying to buy presents, but yet she will literally left hook you and she'll pick something that you mentioned that you didn't have like 6 months ago and that you might want to have. And she will left hook you at the holidays and she'll get you it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I wanted this. Oh, but you mentioned it back in June. What? What? And therefore, like, I've always been surprised by my wife. I like all of her presents have been such surprises.
Yeah, sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to be observant. You got to take notes. I mean, I literally did that with my younger sibling one year, where he had just been casually watching a playthrough of No More Heroes, hadn't really been talking about it. I think he was like obsessed with like Dark Souls at that point. Mm-hmm. And then literally like he did this thing where he'll like be half asleep and he'll like pretend to kind of engage because we open our presents really early. But then literally I wrote the thing and I put little hints to kind of give people a clue of what their presents are that they can figure out. And I kid you not, he was like, okay, I'm half awake. He reads the hint and his eyes literally shoot straight open and he's just like, wait, you did it. I mean, it was more effective than the coffee we made after we were done. He was wide awake after that.
Exactly. All right. So final thoughts on this one. There really isn't too much to add to it. I mean, I wish I could tell you guys that I felt for you or anything like that, but this is definitely something that even I, as doing reviews for my channel, like you have to expect around the holiday times, is some kind of sale is going to go up pretty quick.
Isn't the game actually kind of underperforming?
Its numbers are a little low. It depends on where you actually go for it. A lot of people say it's in line. A lot of people say that it's slightly underperforming. So the sale might be another motivation to try and get people to buy it. But again, this is something that you could also accredit to the fact of when it's coming out. It's coming out around October. Yeah, let me double check here. The release date for it. It was September actually. So yeah, this is still kind of in that holiday time frame. So that might be also why it's underperforming. A lot of the review scores that I have seen have told me that it shouldn't be underperforming. It's actually fairly good. But I don't know.
On Steam, it's ranked as mixed reviews overall. Granted, that could also be in recent response to this. It's dumb people are getting upset over this, but
yeah, I mean, one thing I'm kind of surprised, and again, this is me putting on kind of like my tinfoil hat speculative conspiracy theory rant here, but I'm surprised if the game industry hasn't considered the idea already. But if you look at stores like JCPenney or I mean, or like Marshalls, or like a lot of these retail stores where everything seems to always be on sale when it actually isn't, but they think it is. I'm surprised game companies haven't stumbled across the idea of, oh, we have this really inflated, like, large price, but oh, it's on sale, and then making it look like it's been marked down from $80 to $50, which is the price most people would actually pay for the game. I'm surprised we haven't started heading in that direction yet.
Give it time. Like, in all honesty, give it time, and then at that point we'll have that problem. And I wish I had more to say on this matter. Like, I don't have to worry about this because my review copy of, not actual review copy, but my copy to review Shadow of the Tomb Raider is right here, so it doesn't necessarily affect me. But it's not like I don't feel for you.
This is usually the story of my life when I buy anime. I buy like all my anime at Right Stuff, and it's like more often than not there'll be an anime I just want, and I'll decide, okay, you know, I'll just make an order for that now, and then like maybe a day or two later, Right Stuff says, hey, we're having a sale from this particular publisher, exactly. And I'm like, damn it, I should have just waited a couple of days.
See, that's my problem on Steam. Is that as soon as I get a game, that's when the big 95% sale goes on. And he's like, crap! Like, I could have gotten a $15 game for $2. What the hell?
Yeah, that's how I am on the PlayStation Store, especially with certain classics. I mean, it's just
yeah, that's happened there too.
Well, yeah, because I know, like, it was kind of one of those cases where I bought like the Resident Evil franchise pack with 4, 5, and 6 at full price one year, and then literally the next week, it was marked down by a good $20.
And it just makes you feel maybe feeling stupid is the worst way to go about it. But that's exactly how you feel.
Yeah, it's
if
like
I only could have waited a week, if I only could have sated my impatience for 7 whole days, maybe this would have worked.
Yeah, I mean, especially like the one that I'm still very pissed off about is with J-Stars, because J-Stars, I literally paid full price, got it day one. And now it frequently is put on sale for $5.
Yeah.
Jeez. Hindsight's always a bitch.
All right. So, final thoughts on this one before we move on into even more stupid.
Yeah. It just makes me think of like the Looney Tunes gag where like the person looks and then you just see their face slowly turn into a sucker, into the lollipop.
Yeah, pretty much. So moving on into the next story. This one has got a little bit of controversy behind it, but a lot of people might have actually heard this story by now, and that is that Boogie 2988 is apparently not in the Cool Kids Club anymore with Wizards of the Coast. Wait, what? So for those who don't know who Boogie 2988 is, and I'm pretty sure that's a very minor amount of people, Boogie 2988 is a popular YouTuber, most widely known for his character portrayal of Francis, a character that would instantly get pissed off at insert gaming controversy here. I think the way that a lot of people remember Francis is that one video where he took his 360 out and just beat the crap out of it. And so that's mostly where Boogie gets a lot of his fame. But recently, especially this year, poor Boogie, he's just had kind of a targeting reticle on his back, because every time he tries to do something, it's usually going to end up as controversy for him. Perfect example, he went on to the H3H3 podcast and made some statements that, while I don't think were necessarily hurtful towards gay marriage or anything like that, unfortunately, the LGBT community did not see it that way and have been harping him literally ever since. Like, I literally, if you go to his Twitter and he makes any kind of benign statement, you will immediately see at some point an LGBT person giving him crap. And unwarranted crap, might I add, but crap. And it got worse this year as he was actually talking to, I think it was Stephen Jason Williams. Actually, no, that's his actual name. He was talking with another YouTuber about going to a convention where they would do a Magic the Gathering event, basically like a tag team duel in Magic the Gathering. And he hadn't technically signed on with it because he had heard tell that he did not have friends in Wizards of the Coast anymore, which is funny because he's, as according to his testimony, he's literally spent thousands of dollars on Wizards of the Coast products. He's spent it on Magic the Gathering cards. He spent it on D&D books. He should be like their biggest, bestest buddy. And he didn't think he had a good enough standing with it. Turns out that just after Boogie, or at least the friend of Boogie, was trying to get him permission to go to the convention to do this tag team duel, they announced it on Twitter. And they did a big announcement. Unfortunately, I wish I had a photograph of it, but there are other YouTube channels that do, where they officially announced that Boogie 2988 would be there, and who knows, maybe he would bring Francis along with him. And that was very quickly taken down. And if you try to look for that tweet now, you won't find it. It's been deleted. And the main reason being that we can tell is that Wizards of the Coast basically strong-armed the convention into not bringing out Boogie. And the reason for it is fairly stupid. People might remember earlier this year, just before my break, we mentioned Jeremy Hambley. He is a YouTuber who runs two channels, Unsleeved Media and The Quartering. The Quartering is a political channel. He gets fairly political on that. I've gone on the record saying that I do watch his videos. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he states, but Unsleeved Media was actually where he covered Magic the Gathering and other card games. And recently this year, he was permanently banned from Magic the Gathering. He could not attend pre-launch events, and he could not participate in Magic the Gathering tournaments. And since then, he has been a thorn in Wizards of the Coast's side. So much so that Boogie now has testimony basically saying that until he disavows his friendship, and it's not even a friendship, it's an acquaintance with Unsleeved Media, he is no longer allowed to go to any Wizards of the Coast events. Just how stupid is that? Seriously, Wizards of the Coast, you had the biggest person who would ever advertise your stuff, and you will not let him go to a convention. One, because of statements that he made earlier this year, and two, because he has a mild affiliation with a person you are disagreeing with that, I'm going to say it outright, is bringing up a lot of honest discussion about how you run your damn company. All right. This was the guy that also helped break the pedophile judges that we reported on earlier this year. This is also the guy that went to a bar at Gen Con and got the crap beaten out of him. Why? Because he has different political views than the person who beat the crap out of him. And you're banning Boogie 2988, a guy who is not even he's not even involved in half the crap that Jeremy Hambley is doing, and he's not allowed to be there because you haven't said that you will not play with him in the sandbox. That's why he's banned. Thoughts from you guys on this? The level of stupidity here is astounding to me.
I really hate guilt by association. Love or hate the Quartering. That's mostly the channel I know him for.
Yeah.
Love or hate him. But I guess, at the end of the day, if Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to have anything to do with him, I guess that's their business at the end. Again, agree, disagree. That's your thoughts for the end of the day. But, Boogie has a very minor, loose affiliation with the guy. They've talked on maybe a couple occasions. They've had their share of disagreements, but generally they're just kind of like, okay, they know each other and they talk to each other once in a while, maybe. I don't see why, just because Boogie refuses to disavow this guy, that he needs to be punished for him.
Looking at the story, both of you kind of buried the lead of what the main thing that started this whole firestorm was. It isn't so much his association with Unsleeved Media. It's actually an after effect, because apparently he was put on notice by Wizards of the Coast, and we're talking specifically about Boogie 2988, real name Stephen Jason Williams. And apparently it all stems from comments he made a while back, and apparently this article itself was from back in July, so we're actually pretty late to the party, where apparently he made a statement stating that we're riding the line on terms of politics here, so I'm giving this for context, but apparently he issued some statements about how the approval of how gay marriage being protected under federal law should have maybe waited a couple of decades. And
Well,
that's
Adam
what
did
started
mention that. Adam did mention that he went on the H3H3 podcast where that statement really got him into trouble there.
Yeah, and that seems to be more kind of the initial issue that Wizards of the Coast, well, took issue with. But then from there, it was Unsleeved Media that basically posted a video defending him, and that is more where the association has come from.
Yeah, so you're right on these counts. Like he did get approached on his earlier issues this year on the H3 podcast. And sorry, I actually had to step away because my nose was really bothering me. But yeah, you had those statements. So yeah, we're making the focus of this the fact that his association with Unsleeved Media is what got him removed from this con, but it's not. It's one part of a string of events that, while still don't make sense, Wizards of the Coast has basically said, well, we love the fact that you buy our stuff, but we're not going to bring you out because we think you're a hater.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing to balance, because on the one hand, yeah, he has a lot of pull in the YouTube community with a lot of his videos, but at the same time, from a business perspective, I can kind of see where they're coming from. Are they handling it the best way? Probably not, but it's very much one of those cases of, do we take an honest stand against people who have controversial opinions to save our bottom line? Or do we risk seeming like we agree with them by saying nothing? And that's always a struggle.
What's weird is that this story is labeled as being out in July, but you literally had videos coming out this week that were talking about it. I'm wondering if it's because of the string of events they actually started way back in July, but you literally had like Review Tech USA interview Boogie about these events and get his kind of take on the matter. You also had a bunch of other channels weighing in this week, just saying how stupid this whole situation was. And you know what? They're right, because the bottom line is like, just as me and Alex have kind of said on our gaming channel, if Nintendo actually came out and said that we were a bunch of haters, they would literally be missing out on so much potential revenue with us, because we do so much advertising for Nintendo kind of thing. The same thing can be said here. Boogie, by testimony, has literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on Wizards of the Coast products. And that can mean a lot of things. It doesn't necessarily just mean D&D. It doesn't necessarily mean just Magic the Gathering. And the other thing that's also really weird about this is that this whole tag team duel was to promote their upcoming Magic the Gathering Arena app that was coming out. So this would have been free advertising. You wouldn't have had to pay a dime, Wizards of the Coast. This was to a lower company that was trying to get their advertising out there while promoting Magic the Gathering Arena. And you're missing out on this revenue. You're missing out on this fan just speaking oodles of joy for you. All because he not just because he associated, I don't even say associate. He is barely acquainted with him. From what I understand, a lot of the Unsleeved Media interactions between him and Boogie have been like private DMs. Just talking about videos, just trying to get testimony on stuff. Or if they had videos because they've literally had drama between the two of them where they've had to resolve it off camera. So you still took him out of this. I just don't understand why.
It's that usual, you cave to the vocal minority, the same vocal minority that doesn't buy your products at all. Yeah. I mean, I think a better way to approach this for Wizards would be just like, well, we understand that Boogie has had some opinions in the past, but you could also cite a lot of other records that Boogie has done, because Boogie, by his own testimony, has also been very pro-LGBT, because yes, that is one of the big catalysts as why he is getting banned from this tournament, because of his comments regarding gay marriage, whatever. But he's also been very, very pro-LGBT. He's been a really staunch supporter of the community, did actually work, grassroots political to help in his hometown to get it legal, to get it on the ballot. So it's like that would be the way for Wizards to handle this.
Really quick, Alex, like, you correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you follow a little bit more Boogie's content than I do, but like the best way that I've seen that can describe him on YouTube is he's kind of the king of the moderates. All right. He is very moderate. He's very middle of the road. He tries to find ways to get along with everybody, partially because of his upbringing and the stuff that he has to deal with, but also because this is how he naturally wants to do things. Okay.
Yes, he is a moderate, and again, that is by his own confession. You know, people call him a fence sitter. He doesn't care. He calls himself a moderate. That's what he is, and that's where he takes a stand.
The other thing that actually kind of annoys me on this is that now, I don't know if you followed this at all, Alex, or you, Romney, but there was actually in Turtle, before we covered all of the Channel Awesome crap that happened this year. Remember Gamergate actually kind of took its toll on the Channel Awesome, not staff, but Channel Awesome creators, where Gamergate happened, and all of a sudden there was just a straight divide amongst the creators. And I can't even remember where I saw the quote, but I know it was from Count Jacula, who basically said that he had heard in their, not Discord, but like their voice chat service that they were using. He literally heard, what's his bucket from? Oh, Browse Held High. Owen Citizen. He literally said, Kyle Walgren actually say there's no such thing as being neutral in any issue anymore. And from there on in, that became like this ongoing deal that I still to this day and don't understand is like on YouTube, is on regular everyday media, where there's no such thing as a neutral party. Of course there is.
Yeah.
And that's what Boogie is.
Yeah. Honestly, for people who think that it's not like that anymore, well, open up a history book, look at kind of the rhetoric that was around the time of the Revolutionary War and kind of what they thought people should be done to people who didn't choose a side between the patriots and the loyalists. Yeah, it's very much, they literally said the same exact thing of, you can't be neutral in this. So that is not a new thing.
We literally have a joke. I am the Swiss in this, because guess who is famous for being neutral in most conflicts? The Swiss. Guys, there's a reason that joke exists. Neutrality can exist within these arguments. Mm-hmm. And for some reason and I'm like bordering the politics stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and pull things back, but we need to stop the whole bullcrap of just because somebody takes a neutral position on something, that immediately they're your enemy. That's actually the opposite. They're the person that you need to try to convince, and when you can't convince them, you need to pull the F back.
Yeah, honestly, there's a scene in Archer that summarizes this perfectly, where it's literally like, it's in an episode where there's like these people who are from these various nationalities that were active in World War II, and Archer's like, Ireland wasn't Axis power, and literally the person that I haven't seen Archer, but I've seen the clips where the person's like, no, they were neutral. Ireland was neutral, which is true. They were neutral in World War II, but people think, they were neutral, which means they were evil. That literally
it's not the case.
Yeah, Archer,
which is funny. Like Ireland gets portrayed like that, but the Swiss don't. That's why we have the comment. I'm the Swiss on this.
It's because the Swiss have all of our money. That's why the Swiss has all of our money.
And Spain didn't even participate in the war, probably because they had their own war going on at the time. But that's another story entirely.
I mean, history. We've officially become the History Channel here. I actually think that Spain was preparing in case Germany invaded, but that was about it. Like, they really didn't care. No, that's right. They were in their own internal civil war. That's why they didn't get involved. So, wow, this literally became the History Channel while we're discussing all the levels of stupid. But yeah, that's
news, reviews, and history.
Exactly. Now we're going to get claimed by the History Channel. Darn it.
The History Channel is no longer about history.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless we talk about aliens, maybe, but one cool thing, you can't copyright facts.
This is true. So yeah, final thoughts on this one. It's just a crying shame.
You know who else wanted us to just pick a side and be with us or against us? A little known chancellor known as Shiv Palpatine, and we all know how that turned out.
And now I need to put in a clip of "This is how freedom dies." Thunderous applause. Either that, or I need to find Aaron Hansen going, "Do it."
I'd say the Padme clip would be far more poignant because honestly, and again, to George Lucas's credit, that is something that happened in history. I mean, that is kind of what led to the fall of Rome. So yeah, full circle. All roads lead back to the history.
Indeed. Again, this is just really stupid because Wizards of the Coast had this perfect advertising poster boy in Boogie, and they're not taking advantage of it. But you know what, Wizards, this is not the only mistake you've made this year, and eventually those mistakes are going to come home to roost. And I look forward to that day. I sadly look forward to that day as a D&D fan. I'm not necessarily a Magic fan, but I am a D&D fan, and those chickens are going to come home to roost, and you are not going to like the reaction that you're getting. And, you know, the fact that you guys actually brought up all of the problems there. CD Projekt Red is also having that problem too, where a bunch of people who would never even buy a Witcher game are now starting to give a ton of crap to CD Projekt Red, not just because of the author, but also because of their recent stances on things. This is just getting ridiculous, people. We really need to stop that. Again, get politics out of the damn fandom.
Yeah, there's literally a thing for this in TV tropes. It's called complaining about shows you don't watch.
Indeed. Or complaining about games you literally, as Alex pointed, don't buy.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on into the next story that we have tonight.
Speaking of people that really should stop.
This is crowning moment of stupid, as far as I am concerned. I don't know about you guys, but and part of the reason is because the way that this has been reported this week is either people take the serious approach and give their honest viewpoints, or a lot of people just went funny. Just decided we're going to go ahead and go funny with this because there's no reason to take this seriously at all. So again, a story that was covered, I think you guys covered it the first week I was gone, which was Filip Muicin. For those who don't know who he is, way back in August, we found out from a YouTube channel by the name of Boomstick Gaming that Filip, who currently was the IGN, or at least one of the Switch reviewers on IGN, had literally plagiarized his review of an indie game coming out for Switch called Dead Cells. And there's a complete video there. We'll even probably put a link in the RSS feed so you guys can check it out. But there's literally a point for point proving that Filip Muicin's video on Dead Cells was plagiarized from Boomstick Gaming's review, like word for word at points. How did Filip Muicin respond to this? Basically gave a non-apology after being fired from IGN, because after one plagiarized review was found, 4 to 5 others surfaced, and it got worse from there. So after getting fired, we then found another 5 because the idiot decided to challenge the head guy at Kotaku, Jason Schreier.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to challenge the head guy at Kotaku, and what did the head guy of Kotaku do? Found 5 more that he had plagiarized. Good on you, Jason Schreier. I don't necessarily love your site all the time, but man, you did good work there. And ultimately, after his non-apology, if you guys don't know what non-apology is basically he didn't apologize for any of the horrible actions that he took on. He took an absence. How long, you might ask? About a month and a half. And he's back now. He's back. He just barely put up a video on his channel. He is resuming activities on YouTube. And he still is not apologizing for one damn thing.
So basically, he's pulled the Logan Paul.
Pretty much. And unfortunately, unlike Logan Paul, he doesn't have the numbers to back that up.
Nor do we get the satisfaction of seeing him beat up in a boxing match.
No, we really don't. But yeah, bottom line is if you guys haven't seen this already on YouTube, he made a video, basically said, oh, it's okay. I've been gone for a month and a half and I've learned things about myself and I'm striving to do better. And he didn't apologize to a single person he plagiarized. Okay, so Boomstick Gaming did. I think Boomstick Gaming got announced or got some kind of a mention in his first non-apology. He was not mentioned in the second one. nor was any of the other professional reviewers of sites like Engadget, and I think Kotaku was amongst one of the other ones, Nintendo Life. He didn't even apologize to those guys. He just resumed with regular everyday schedule, and his channel is going to be bigger and better than ever because you have no choice, Filip Muicin. Why? Because there's no way, if IGN fired you, there's no way any other gaming news organization is going to bring you in, not with plagiarism around your neck. Now, before people jump down my throat of like, wait, Drat, during the whole James Gunn situation, you were talking about how people need to get a second chance. Okay, yeah, sure. People do need to get a second chance. Do you want to know who don't get second chances, though? People with theft convictions in retail. Why? Because they've stolen from the register before. So why would you give them the temptation?
Yeah,
even remotely?
Yeah, plus it also helps. The other key difference is that James Gunn actually apologized for what he did.
That too. Like, he actually did apologize for his actions. He did own up to them. He was accountable. Filip Muicin has not, to this day, apologized to any of the people, because even again, in that non-apology, he didn't apologize to Boomstick. He didn't. He basically said, good work, buddy. Someday you'll make a name for yourself. Like a dick. He didn't apologize to any of these guys for literally ripping off their work and taking credit for it as his own. Do you want to know why he won't get a job? At least for, and here's the thing, guys. I'm not necessarily saying he shouldn't get a second chance. Sure, he should. 5 to 10 years down the road. Okay? Because then at that point, he's had to have learned his lesson. But until then, I don't even see any gaming news organization, big or small, hiring him with plagiarism around his neck. Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. And I can guarantee you, like, he's already got the dedicated fan base on YouTube. They ain't going to stick around forever, especially if things get tough for him and he has to plagiarize another review. It's just going to be him repeating old behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm ranting right now. You guys' thoughts on this one? It's just like the level of stupid is astounding here.
Yeah, it's not so much just a level of stupid, but the ego on this guy. I mean,
oh no, the stones on him are amazing.
Yeah,
and not in a good way.
Yeah, it's just, you look at this and it's just, he's got like the grin, the smile, just like making videos on this channel is what I want to do and it's where I want to be. It's like, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he straight up plagiarized those exact words from some other YouTuber who said the same exact thing.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if his whole opening thing on that video was a template on Microsoft Word or something. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it's right under there next to the political, non-apologetic statements that sound apologetic.
Dude, I don't know if people have go and see. Like, I don't even want to give this guy views. I'm actually going to recommend that you guys go to Review Tech USA, who covered this, and to Sid Alpha, who covered this. And by the way, go and see Sid Alpha's video because he was damn hilarious with this by continuing to add names to Filip Muicin. So do that so that you can see like the description that he wrote for it, as well as the actual non-apology he put on the video, because it reeks of PR.
Mm-hmm.
Reeks to the point of, I'm kind of surprised he didn't hire a firm and a guy to stand in front of a podium to make that announcement.
Yeah, it's yeah, like you could just see it in his mannerisms and everything. This guy, I wouldn't be surprised. And again, tinfoil hat on. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he was some sort of sociopath. Just given just kind of like the mannerisms and stuff like that, it's very much a case. You can tell he clearly has no remorse for what he's done. He's just saying what he thinks will get people off of his back.
And one thing that the people might bring up is that, you know, everybody hears this. Like, if you want to do things on YouTube, if you want to do things in film, you have to have that, like, a particular level of arrogance to be able to pull it off. But you also have to balance that and temper it. All right. This guy, if you like see his via the ways I've told you, see these videos and see how he handles it. The level of arrogance on this guy is unbelievable. He does not deserve the support right now. I'm not for tearing people down and literally doing public lynchings here, but this guy has not learned one damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see a good example, I mean, people think, oh, you need to be arrogant to survive in show business, but if you're too arrogant, well, again, best examples. Mandy Patinkin being fired and literally having his character killed off of Criminal Minds so that there was no possibility of him coming back. Same thing with Community, with Chevy Chase getting fired and having his character literally killed off so that there is no chance of him coming back. You can be a little bit confident in your work, but if you're arrogant as hell, no one will want to work with you.
I just barely got this via text. So this just in, Filip Muicin hired on by James Romine. That's a step up for you.
Yeah, I mean...
Because, hey, if he could sell his own BS, then yeah, he could sell off James Romine's.
I mean, if this ends up becoming an actual thing where he does get hired by the Romine brothers, well...
Oh, no, this is a friend just being sarcastic.
I know, I'm just saying, if this becomes an actual thing, though, well, it's... Yeah, we're doomed. I'm pretty sure the Antichrist will probably have been born at that point. It's like, yep, everyone just brace yourself. I mean, if you can get the daggers, get the daggers, but here comes the apocalypse.
Alex, what was your take on Filip Muicin coming back to YouTube?
Kind of what you guys said. I was like, boy, the balls of steel this guy to decide to come back this soon. And yeah, I didn't bother watching any of his stuff, and I haven't followed the coverage that closely, but I'm just like, it sounds like this dude hasn't learned a damn thing from this whole ordeal and experience. So it's only a matter of time before his channel just implodes.
If this guy has shed a tear, it's only because this hurt him. This hurt his rise to fame. This hurt his career. And unfortunately, that's exactly what you shouldn't take from this. I mean, bottom line, you had the stones, the actual audacity to come back after that non-apology and Jason Schreier proving you wrong. A month and a half later, 6 weeks later, you're back. At bare minimum, if somebody does crap like this, they should be coming back a year later and saying, look, this is what I've learned and I'm totally sorry. And these are the people that I've hurt. Like, I've brought up the 12 steps every now and again, but like the first step is always to acknowledge that you have a problem. And I can't remember which step it is in the 12 steps, but there is actually one where you have to apologize and in some cases confront your actual victims.
Yep. Step 9.
Step 9. Yeah.
Step 9.
If I remember Seinfeld.
Yeah.
So, wow, it was covered on Seinfeld. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I haven't seen everything about Seinfeld. I've seen Soup Nazi, but yeah, step 9 is you have to confront these people, and you have to be able to show that you're accountable for your actions. Do any of us think like he could actually do that right now? If he were to meet Boomstick Gaming at a convention, like how would that interaction go?
Honestly, it would probably go the way it would go like it did in King of Kong when Billy Mitchell came into the arcade when Steve Wiebe was doing his attempt.
That actually is that's a good comparison right there.
Yeah, that's probably what will happen is that they'll be in the same room, but they'll not actually say anything, and he'll go off on his way.
And he'll make like slight murmuring comments about how he's not here to look at the Donkey Kong machine and all that. I honestly see like him shaking his hand and going, "Oh, you've got such a great channel and you're such a go-getter. You keep going, fella." And then Boomstick Gaming literally popping him right across the mouth because he literally got over on Boomstick's hard work, so to speak.
Yeah, although more than likely you'll probably just see a mob of all the other people he's plagiarized. They're all like they'll know he's at a convention, then they're just gonna all be waiting for him by like the entrance when he comes in, and then they'll have the burlap sack, they throw it over him, and they take him
actually
away.
You want to know what I want to see now? Like at next year's VidCon, I want to see Filip Muicin get his own panel, only to have a string of people, all of which are the journalists that he plagiarized off of, and all of them showing the evidence that he plagiarized, just to see if we have another repeat of the record scratch that will not be named at VidCon, just to see if that happens again.
I doubt it. Like, If this guy is anything, he wouldn't like that. Would be like literally walking into a trap. He would he. It's very much if he thinks he's smart enough to know, hey, I can say these things and get the loyal fan base back on my side. I doubt VidCon would even take the risk of inviting him, because although a lot of people talked about the incident that involving the person that shall not be named, Hank Green has actually like learned from the experience. Saying Hank Green himself has actually admitted, hey, we probably should have been a bit better about being consistent about our issues. And so
but he'd still invite the record scratch that shall not be named, and that already to me is not a step in the right direction. Just because she's not relevant anymore.
Well, yeah, and he actually hasn't invited her the past couple of times. It was a couple of years ago.
Oh, I thought she got invited this year.
No,
okay.
Or if she did, she was a no-show, because they're, again, VidCon, and this is one thing I respect Hank Green for, is that he actually listens, he owns up, he does what Filip Muicin will never do, where he acknowledges his mistakes, owns up to them, and tries to improve, because that's what people are supposed to do.
Yep. Accountability. Filip Muicin, you have none. James Gunn has more accountability than you.
Yeah, there are many directions I could take that joke of people who have more accountability. I mean, at this point, Ted Bundy has more accountability than Filip Muicin.
Like, I'm just barely seeing a couple of other friends going, this is probably the kid that stole a cookie from the cookie jar and then convinced the mom that he didn't want to do it, but his friend told him that he wanted a cookie. That's kind of the way that he's acting. So and the sad reality here is, Alex, like you want to be able to see him like take a hit for his actions. He's got this is the part that blows my mind the most. He has a dedicated fan base that thinks he did nothing wrong.
Doesn't surprise me.
Like, okay. I haven't gone to that video, but I've seen the comment section for that video, and there is a bunch of people going, you keep going, fella. And I have a feeling like half of them are probably sarcastic, but then there are people who actually liked the video.
Okay, somebody's got to search this guy and see if he's wearing a bayonet, because that's the only explanation I can think of.
I don't know.
Hashtag if any of you actually get that reference.
So, I mean, here's the thing. Like, that video has more dislikes as compared to his likes, but people actually liked the video. And I know that it's not him botting, because he can only do that once. So final thoughts on this one, because again, the sheer level of stupid here, it's one of those things that I really hope that he fails. Like, I know that this is really mean to say, but I hope he fails, because that's the only way that I think he's going to hit rock bottom and actually realize that he's been thinking about this the wrong way the entire time. And I don't like to want people to fail, but sometimes that's the only way to get people to realize the folly of their ways. This is actually one of I've seen a lot of comparisons happen here with Filip Muicin to Mundane Matt, who just recently went through a lot of this controversy himself. And he kind of had the same reaction to it. Like, literally the next day after all of that happened, he was back to work. And I get the circumstances of that. He shouldn't have done that, but I get the circumstances why he did it. But just like with Filip, like, after that happened, you needed to take a year off YouTube, my friend. You needed to take a year off and then come back penitent.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those things that's kind of the after effect of this 24-minute news cycle we live in, where now people are expecting the news to pass over too quickly, not realizing that this isn't how it works. Because, the news passes quickly and people move on from one scandal to the next. But the other thing to remember is that if something is placed on the internet, it's on the internet forever. Yep. Websites may disappear, but there are things like Google Cache and the Wayback Machine, not to mention people who compile this information literally for a living. So it's a case of, it may blow over in the sense that nobody's talking about it, but it's still going to be on your record. I mean, when you look at the crap that happened in the wake with the very toxic Eddsworld fandom, where people who were working on Eddsworld Legacy had to literally step away from the show because of how bad it got and how it was affecting their actual lives, because, again, some of those fans are psychopaths. But it's the same thing, is that, the internet, sadly, is forever. Meaning that although we may no longer talk about it, this ain't going to go away.
Especially when you have a bunch of companies, like, again, just kind of going into the Filip thing, and then we're actually going to give Alex the final thought here, but just think about like him trying to do this 5 years from now, like trying to get a journalism job at like a local paper when they can literally like look up this whole thing via either Twitter or Facebook, and they can see that this happened and just go, yeah, we don't even feel good with you covering like regular everyday events because we're not sure if you're going to be ripping it off.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'd be like, I wouldn't even give the guy any puff pieces.
No, not really. I don't trust him. And that's the sad reality here is like, and before people think I'm being too harsh, like that's the reason why we don't trust people who have theft charges or drug offenses in a retail environment where they're in charge of a cash register, is because the temptation is too great. They've done it before. They've stolen before. They could steal again. And you have to be able to to take them out of this environment. The same thing consists here is if you put him back into a journalistic environment, he's going to plagiarize because eventually his schedule is like, I'm not in, I've already kind of covered this. I don't consider myself a journalist. Romney actually did do journalism for a lot longer than me. And he can probably attest to the fact that, you know, deadlines are a son of a bitch sometimes, pardon my French. Indeed. And as soon as those deadlines catch up to him, he's going to take the easy way because he hasn't learned anything yet. So final thought goes to Alex. Your final thoughts on the Filip Muicin situation.
Pretty well said. I don't see him getting a job anywhere because his record's tarnished. This isn't just a one time he maybe went too far. He has a pretty unfortunate, blemishy, spotty record of doing too much of this.
He really does. Like, it would take years to make up for the actions that he's committed. So moving on into the next story here, this is where we might have a little bit of good news, but if people know our track record on this, it's not good news. And that is that this is coming from Anime News Network. Legendary Pictures, or Legendary Entertainment, has announced literally this Wednesday that it is producing a live-action film based on My Hero Academia. I'm just going to go ahead and say that again because people know our thoughts on this particular deal. Legendary is producing a live-action My Hero Academia. So immediately Alex has to leave the room because he doesn't want to talk about them mainstream animes. Right?
Well, no, but I can talk about this a little bit.
So Alex Garcia and Jay Ashenfelter, I think I'm saying that right, are overseeing the project for Legendary Entertainment. And they are also working with the manga's editor, Ryosuke Yoritomi, who will oversee the project for Shueisha. So he'll be the representative for Shueisha. And yeah, My Hero Academia is probably coming to the States in live action form. Why?
Because it's popular, damn it.
Well, I'm probably going to
So was Attack on Titan, and we all saw how that worked out.
Well, to be fair, though, that had problems from day one with production, with Isayama being a bit of a control freak. But I'm probably going to be the only optimistic one here, but out of all of the popular anime that they have tried to make into movies, My Hero Academia actually makes sense to be a movie, because when you consider that superhero movies are more popular than ever before, and given that you don't have to actually do a lot in the way of logistical mental gymnastics to transpose it from Japan to the United States, I mean, out of everything, it at least there is at least some logic here. I can see this actually being a movie. Whether or not it's any good remains to be seen, but this one I can actually see that, okay, it makes business sense. Superhero movies are very popular, and so if you even kind of treat this as kind of a loose parody of the cinematic universe stuff, but still keeping the core of the story intact, I can see it working if they give it to the right director and writer, and that's the thing.
That's the thing. But I mean, like, already I'm kind of the neutral. I can't even believe I'm doing this. I'm the Swiss on this one. I'm the neutral party. Why? Because I want for it to be able to be good. Okay. I want for one of these anime live action adaptations to be good, to be able to actually adapt the material well. But the inner skeptic in me is saying, look at our track record so far. Like, the only one that I'm going to say I remotely like, and it's just because of how stupidly silly it is Speed Racer. All right. I like Speed Racer. I know a lot of people don't, and I get the whole headache thing. But Speed Racer, Dragon Ball Evolution, you have the Attack on Titan live action film, you have Ghost in the Shell, which recently came out. Already people are skeptical about Battle Angel Alita. That hasn't even come out yet.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, like, my inner skeptic is saying, like, look at the track record so far. Live action anime movies have not done well.
Yeah, but there is one key difference to keep in mind between the likes of Dragon Ball Evolution and Speed Racer, is that, at least with Speed Racer, it's coming from a place of passion. The Wachowskis are fans of the cartoon, and they even went out of their way to get the original voice of Speed to do a cameo. And so there you can tell that there was a genuine passion to it. Did it completely work? No. It was still all over the place, but as Mother's Basement kind of put it, it's better to have a film that tries and fails than a film that fails to try, like Dragon Ball Evolution or Ghost in the Shell. Because that's something, even to the credit of the Netflix Death Note film, you can tell that there's a passion to it. It's just, it's easy to screw up. And honestly, for some people wondering, how can you set this in America? Well, Marvel kind of already did it. It's
the premise is, like, again, I've watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes of My Hero Academia, and then unfortunately, I just kind of tuned out. And it's simply, I'm not saying that the animation's bad or anything like that, but to me, it was just feeling like I've gone through this plot line before, and and to me, it's done a little better, so to speak. So, like, the way I know how to explain it is, like, it feels like just any other shonen that you've seen. And so at that point, if you like it, then why don't you just go stick to the stuff you already know?
Well, yeah.
I can't begin to tell people how many times My Hero has been recommended to me. I think Romney's even recommended it to me a few times.
Well, not really me, but I know Aldo highly recommended it quite a bit. But
that's right, yeah.
Yeah, but kind of to continue my point, the idea of transposing My Hero Academia to the US, it's an idea that's technically been done before. Marvel did it with a little-known comic series called Avengers Academy, which, granted, there was a lot of backstory that required build-up, but even Disney had a similar idea.
Yeah, because Disney had Sky High, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a Disney film, and it's very much, when you consider the basic building blocks of My Hero Academia, I mean, the elevator pitch, you don't even have to struggle too far. You could basically just say, oh, it's basically Harry Potter, but with superheroes instead of wizards.
I mean, you could easily make the argument that this is basically the premise of All Real Monsters. Just interject superheroes with monsters.
Well, yeah.
Monsters, Inc. is also this premise.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when you literally look at the two side by side, you can see more of the parallels with Harry Potter, where you literally have, like, the main trio, where you have Deku, you would then have Ochako, and then you have Ida, that kind of literally form the demographic of, oh, you have the main normal one, you have kind of the flighty, goofy one, and then you have the super serious, hard-working student one. It's just, like, it's very much a case of, you literally, that's pretty much what you have here. It's literally Harry Potter, but they're all superheroes instead of wizards, and you have a movie.
Somebody just barely sent to me, you forgot to mention Mucha Lucha. Happy.
Well, I mean, it was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it when I was a kid.
I thought it was fun, but yeah, the premise still sticks here. But the other mention that I should bring up is that Alex is only mad at this movie is because it's not Little Witch Academia as opposed to My Hero Academia.
Well, those two aren't related, but that's another matter entirely.
I think people make that joke with you because academia is in the title.
Yeah, well, academia is just a generic word for schooling and education. It's not like any...
That would be a very weird crossover, though.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be? Wouldn't that be? But yeah, so, like, I'm the neutral party here. I'm willing to see, like, a trailer and see how well they pull it off. Like, I do like the premise of it. It very much has a Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple kind of feel to it, because the way that I understand it is, like, the main character doesn't have any powers, so already he's Batman. So that means he's permanently endeared to all superhero fans ever, because he has no powers and he's trying to achieve in a powered environment.
You must not have watched very far into the series.
No, not really. Because again, it felt like the same plots I'd seen in Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho. I watched One Piece farther than I think I watched this one.
Well, to kind of be the defender of My Hero Academia a little bit.
I'm not knocking it, I promise.
I know, it's just, looking at it, it has that as the start. It is very formulaic and very typical of shonen trappings. But honestly, I can see this working as a film, provided that they get this core aspect right. It's something I've seen in the Marvel movies in a very, very limited capacity, because there's only been a few filmmakers that actually get this right. And that's kind of the core idea of why Deku wants to be a hero and why All Might takes him under his wing. And that's because of that core desire of wanting to help people, of wanting to be that symbol of hope, that symbol of courage. I say the Marvel movies have only done this in a limited capacity because the only time you see this sort of thing in the Marvel movies is with Captain America. And so if regardless of what kind of changes they have to make...
Why has this never stuck? Because this is exactly what I want.
Well, yeah, and that's the premise.
Why is it never stuck with me? I just don't understand.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the important thing, is that regardless of what changes you have to make this appeal to a mainstream American audience, if you keep that as the core of the story, if you make sure that that is what ties it together, you'll have a good movie. But that's the thing that worries me, because that's what we got with that's the problem we had with Dragon Ball Evolution. You had people trying to make Dragon Ball through the lens of Dragon Ball Z, as seen through a couple of episodes you watched on Toonami at one time.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you give it to the right director who at least understands superhero fiction, I mean, this is probably not going to happen, but honestly, the kind of people I would want to see tackle My Hero Academia would be the Russo brothers, because at least they understand superhero fiction in a way that, honestly, most of the other people who make these Marvel movies don't understand.
I'm gonna jump off a bridge here. James Gunn maybe could do this.
I don't see James Gunn doing this.
It seems a little outlandish for him, and that's saying something considering Guardians.
Yeah, like, I don't really see it working under James Gunn, because it would probably go a little bit too comedic, where it needs kind of that emotional core to it, which is something the Russo brothers got really well in Winter Soldier. And I mean, if people really want to throw it, I guess I can see them giving it to Joss Whedon, but I doubt Joss would want to do it, because...
No, I think Joss is done.
Yeah.
I think he was willing to... Well, actually, no, I think he's done, because he did step off that Batgirl film.
Yeah.
So I think he's just done with superheroes. I think he wants to do... And I've already heard talk, like, he's trying to reboot Buffy. He's trying to do a bunch of other things that are more interesting to him.
Yeah, and so... like, of all the other ideas, and that's the other important thing here, and I think it's what plays to the advantage of a My Hero Academia film actually working, is that it doesn't have as many cultural landmines as things like Dragon Ball or Naruto, because it's pulling from a very Western aesthetic, which is something that you don't have to break your brain to make adaptable to an American audience that probably doesn't give a crap about the anime. Because Naruto, you have to then explore about ninjas and all the cultural trappings with ninjas. Dragon Ball Z, you have to go into all the various Chinese and Japanese shorthand that's present in Dragon Ball.
That's kind of the problem, is that you have to go into the mythos, and unfortunately, from a Western studio perspective, some people just aren't willing to do that.
Whereas My Hero Academia, since it's drawing very heavily on Western comic books, you don't have to deal with that. So that's why it being translated into the US isn't that weird. I mean, there's literally a whole, like, fan effort of where they kind of reimagine the premise of My Hero Academia, but in the Marvel Universe, where you just substitute Deku with Spider-Man, because that's more or less what you've got. It's just... Of all the things, this actually makes sense. I'm not used to these ideas making sense, but of all the anime properties that could be the one good anime adaptation, it would be this. So, Legendary, I'm begging you, don't screw this up.
So we did get a question in our live chat. What about any other writers who are not from Disney? And that's actually, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see anybody. And the main reason being is that the reason that the Disney writers come to mind, they're the ones that have done it. They're the ones that have made that formula successful. So at that point, like, trying to pull you could technically, if you're talking about somebody else who has written superhero formula, it would be Christopher Nolan. But Christopher Nolan is not a person I would pick on this one. He goes too serious.
No, it would go
kind of the opposite that you were pointing out with James Gunn. James Gunn would go to comedic. Christopher Nolan would go the other direction. You need somebody who's going to be balanced because that's what My Hero Academia is.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, as for non-Disney writers, there just aren't as many that have proven themselves, particularly with superhero fiction, because all the good ones, Disney knows where to find all the good ones, and that's kind of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, a suggestion that just barely got brought up to me is, and I don't even buy it, is Kevin Smith. Because a lot of people here's the thing. A lot of people like to bring up Kevin Smith because he's a passionate writer. Okay. Yes, he's even passionate about the crap he writes. And he calls it crap. Okay. He'll be the first to admit he's like third tier writer most of the time. But the other problem with Kevin Smith is that immediately people are making the assumption that because he's a comic book fan, he knows My Hero Academia. That's not the case here. You could be a comic book fan and not read manga. And if he doesn't read manga, then you have the exact same problem.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you want to like think of writers that aren't under the control of Disney, I'm looking up. I mean, if you want to like say bring in a comic writer, so someone who writes for Western comics, there are probably a number of writers that even if they're not familiar with the source material, they also show a demonstration of the superhero story and how to make it work. I mean, off the top of my head, you'd have someone like Grant Morrison. He would probably be a good fit because
I mean, what's his bucket from that just barely left DC? Like you could make the argument for him too.
Yeah.
Green Lantern guy. I can't remember. Crap.
Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns. Yeah. I mean, you could make that argument too.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I kind of use Grant Morrison is that when you look at what he did with All-Star Superman, that story demonstrates that he truly understood what Superman is as a character and how he works. And so you want someone who has that level of passion, who goes beyond the superficial elements of a superhero story and understands kind of why we still love superhero stories after all of these centuries.
Another thought that actually gets brought up is like, well, you also need to bring up, or you need to have a director or a writer who is a fan of the series. Okay, I'm going to stop this line of thought right here and now, because the bottom line is a non-fan can do a really, really good story. Do you want to know how I know that? Richard Donner wasn't necessarily Richard Donner is not a good example, but he wasn't necessarily a big fan of Superman, and then he took on the property. Or the Empire Strikes Back director. He knew nothing about it. And he then educated himself by watching episode 4 and then saying, okay, I want to go with this tone. Another good example, the director of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, wasn't a Star Trek fan. Okay. You can have those examples, but I would just like to point out for the record, people, Duncan Hunter was a fan of Warcraft. And how did that movie turn out? Oh, and unfortunately, Romney, I think he got muted. So Alex, well, he works on that. Alex, your take on this whole, yeah, you're back.
Okay.
But Alex, your take on this whole thing, because you're not a big fan of My Hero Academia.
Yeah. Well, first of all, on the last point, I agree. You don't need to be a fan. You just need to respect. I think that's the important thing. You just need to have respect for the material that you're adapting. You don't have to be a fan. It's great if you are, but you need to at least have that respect. I mean, and I think, again, Tim Burton, I mean, whatever people do think about, I know people are kind of split in regards to the Burton Batman films, but, he was not the biggest, comic book geek in terms of Batman, but he did have respect for ideas of the material. That's why he made the movies he did. And same with Christopher Nolan. I don't peg Christopher Nolan as a big comic book geek either, but, respect.
Yeah. And the example I was going to bring up is Kenneth Johnson, the showrunner of the Incredible Hulk television series. He wasn't a fan of the character, but he saw the potential in the material and actually made a damn good TV show out of it.
I mean, for crying out loud, I've never been able to confirm this, but from what I understand, like Sam Raimi wasn't necessarily the biggest Spider-Man fan. He was fans of other hero films, and he got handed Spider-Man. And out of that, like, you can make an honest argument. You got 2 out of 3 good movies out of that trilogy. Mm-hmm. So at that point, like, again, you have non-fans. And I'm pointing out the example of Duncan Hunter was literally, as a Warcraft fan, he was shoved down our throats that he was a Warcraft fan. How a majority of the cast and the crew were Warcraft fans. And that film still bombed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at that point, being a fan isn't necessarily that. Like, you have to have the other facets that Romney and Alex are bringing up. You have to respect the franchise. You have to want to be able to bring the potential out of it. That's what makes you a good director.
Yeah, I mean, if you want another example of a fan that gets too close to the property and how it can suffer, I mean, people who have seen my Power Rangers analysis of the two movies, again, I mentioned the name Amit Bhawmik, and you immediately think of, oh yeah, those team-up episodes that get too caught up on continuity.
Mm-hmm. Because again, diehard fan. And at that, but here's the thing: diehard fans have a specific vision that they want to go through, which doesn't necessarily align with what either the company wants to do, if you're the writer, what the director wants to do. You have to make all of that work while respecting the property. And that was actually one of the problems that Amit Bhawmik had, was that he still wanted his vision despite the fact that he was being told no.
Indeed.
So,
yeah. Now, on the concept itself, the reason I don't like it when, well, these really big shows like My Hero Academia get picked, I get why they do it for business decisions, or, you know, My Hero, Dragon Ball, whatever, these really big, expansive, long-running shows. I mean, My Hero is already in its third, it's going into its fourth within a year or two.
yeah.
And, you know, it's because you've got so much material there. And not only that, you have the two essentially contrasting materials, right?
So at that
and
point, you have the perfect premise for writing a script. You could just do like a two-parter, and you're fine.
I mean, that's my problem, is you have too much material to work with.
That's kind of the problem, is that it is, and like, I promise, guys, I'm not like sucking up to Alex or anything like that, but there is a problem there, because you are technically going into the lazy writing category with that.
And I think this is the problem with Ghost in the Shell, especially with the movie.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
it's like the filmmakers can't decide, do they want to borrow from the manga, or do they want to borrow from the anime? The problem is the anime is very contrasting. Well, it's a very different take on the manga.
As you and I pointed out in our vlog review for it, the biggest problem with this whole thing is that it felt like it was more to have moments in the movie instead of actually trying to tell a story. It felt like the moments were the main focus. We have to have this moment in film. Yeah. Instead of actually trying to make a story work around it.
Yeah, or you get the situation you got with Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, where you feel the crunch, you feel the compression, because they're squeezing an entire season's worth of material into this tiny little movie, and it's like, you shouldn't pick these giant, expansive, long-running shonen manga or anime to pick from. If you want to make a decent anime movie, you need to, I think, picking something more short, more self-contained, something that's already finished is a better way to go. But of course, business-wise, they won't do that because, well, My Hero is current and everybody's watching it, and that's
why they're doing it.
Exactly. I mean, you look at Alexa. I looked at Crunchyroll's Alexa page today, and I mean, it's just basic. I can't see anything too big, but it's like some of the top trending keywords that Alexa ranks it on based on like searching and Google and whatnot. It's, of course, one is that My Hero Academia. So I get it, but I'm thinking, something better would be like, I don't know, Chrono Crusade, because at least that is short enough that I feel like you could work that into a single movie. And I feel like the material's already done. Again, you have a bit of a problem between the dichotomy of the anime adaptation versus the manga, right? The two different materials to draw from. Yeah. But so I think in the most ideal world, you pick a completely original anime to draw from. I mean, credit at least for going with your name. The novel and the anime aren't that terribly different from each other, so you're not going to have the two dueling source materials to pick from. You just got the one. So I just think this is a bad idea. You're picking an anime that's too long, a manga that's too long. You're going to try and squeeze it into one short, relatively short.
Given your argument, you're going to be more interested in finding moments than actually trying to tell a story.
You're gonna find moments, or you're gonna make a mediocre first movie. Kind of the problem with the Power Rangers movie. It's like you're making a mediocre first movie that's all set up. just with the hopes that you'll get to make your second movie, which you might not if you don't make your money back.
Yeah. Although to that, I would kind of counter that there are ways to make an entire TV series fit into a feature film format if you are willing to take more of a risk with the material you're working with. The best example would be The Fugitive, which was a very long-running television series long before the Harrison Ford film was even thought up. And they made it work by focusing on the core elements and the core moments of, okay, what are we needing to focus on? We don't need to focus on every single episode. We just need to focus on the core idea of, oh, Richard Kimball is on the run from the law for a crime he didn't commit. You have Lieutenant Gerard pursuing him. There's your movie. He's trying to find the one-armed man. And so that's kind of the other issue people need to take, because that was the problem with Ghost in the Shell. They were loyal to the visual aesthetic of the source material, but didn't put in any connective tissue. Like you said, they chose moments rather than an actual story. And that's why having a super fan is a problem. You need someone who's willing to make those decisions of, what can I use that will tell a story and what can be cut?
Exactly. So we are running out of time, but final thoughts on this one before we move on into our final story. I think it's pretty clear. Alex is kind of against this. Romney wants it to be able to do well, and I'm Switzerland. I'm the Swiss on this.
Yeah. Please, Legendary, please don't screw this up. If there was ever an idea
we need more good live action anime adaptations. We need that.
It's not even that. It's just like, of all the anime, this has the least problems of translating for an American audience. I mean, this and Sword Art Online, they're idiot proof. So please don't be the one idiot in the RPG situation where you have a 99% to do it right. Don't be the 1% that misses.
And I'm just going to go ahead and state this right here and now. And maybe this is just my own opinion, but if this one isn't good, I think that's it for me. I don't know if I want to try another live action anime adaptation. Like, I'm already worried about Alita. I'm already worried about, because, there's still talk of Akira. There's still talk of a bunch of others. In fact, somebody just barely brought to me that somebody actually put in a treatment for Vision of Escaflowne. That ain't going to work. And so it's just like, this can't do it. I don't know if I can dole out $10 to go and see this in theaters. I don't know if I can.
Well, yeah, there is one interesting point we forgot to mention, is that Toho, which is the company that produces the anime, is a lot more heavily involved with this. So this isn't just Legendary being like, oh, we bought the rights. This is more Toho like, hey, we're going to work with you. But it's very much a case of where we're starting to see that these companies are just like, okay, we're going to give you the ideas, but we are going to have a little bit of control here so that way you don't screw the pooch.
Yup. All right, moving on into our final story, and in my opinion, the crowning piece of stupidity that happened this week. And let's go ahead and get into it. In fact, this is the story that the episode is titled for. Alex, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to answer me an honest question. Mm-hmm. You do a lot of pre-ordering. You pre-order anime, you pre-order figurines, you pre-order a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
But you love bonus content. You love it when, say for Sonic, you get like an extra really cool collectible figure that you can be able to put in your room, right?
Yes. At
the very most, hypothetically speaking, let's just say a company gives you the most perfect bundle you could ever get for a collector's edition. How much are you willing to actually pay to get that?
Give me a second, because I actually have something on pre-order right now that's coming in about a month, and I'll tell you how much it's gonna cost me.
Well, I'm talking hypothetically. Like, how much are you willing to sacrifice in your bank account for that?
Okay. Well, before I totally delve into hypothetical, right now I've got the premium deluxe edition from Sentai Filmworks, the Princess Principal Collector Set. Has a lot of great extra stuff included. It's going to be $116.99 on Right Stuff. And and because it's econo shipping, they waive the shipping fee, which is nice. So I'd say, in the few $100 ranges is where I'll go. Probably not more than $300.
Romney, what's your threshold? Like, how much are you willing to pay for a collector's edition stuff?
If I were the type of person who actually invested in that kind of thing, my threshold would be about $100 at the most.
So I guess when I say $8,000, that might be a little out of your price range.
Maybe, just maybe.
Well, unfortunately, Capcom does not think the rest of us geeks do. Because they just barely announced that they are going to be releasing the Devil May Cry 5 Ultra Limited Edition. And whoo boy, is this a dent in the wallet. All right. I've seen some pretty hefty prices in the last few years. I still like to point this out. The 25th anniversary Final Fantasy Collection, which was literally for like $350 for 10 games, all like on individual discs and all that, and you had to import it, but it was like $300 for that. That's the price of a console, guys. You're paying for 10 games. And Capcom has decided that as a bonus for their ultra limited edition for Devil May Cry 5, they are going to release it with 3 replica cosplay jackets for the 3 main characters, V, Nero, and Dante. And the highest one, if you want to pre-order your copy of Devil May Cry 5, is for $8,000. I would just like to point out for the record, before people start jumping down my throat, oh, he's probably reading the European price. No, I am reading the US dollar price. Literally, if you want V's jacket, so V is like the V version is the cheapest. It's at $5,300. $5,000 for a character you don't know yet. Nero is sitting at $6,600. And if you want the Dante jacket for your cosplay privilege, it's for $8,000. Yeah!
This is just a jacket.
It's just a jacket along with the game.
Yep.
That must be some goddamn jacket.
Well, I just have to state
I
the
mean,
obvious.
it's made from really good material. Like it's made for cosplayers. But I don't know about you guys. Like, I know a few cosplayers, and they are the biggest mother effing penny pinchers I've ever known in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I already know one of them has not this jacket, but they did a recreation of the Devil May Cry 3 Dante jacket. And they made it themselves.
Yeah.
That's nuts!
I'm just going to have to say this. Did Capcom not learn their lesson from Resident Evil 6? Because this is not the first time they've pulled this crap. They literally had a 900-pound, and by pound I mean the British currency, a 900-pound, which was an $817 US version of Resident Evil 6 that also came with a replica jacket and 4 tablet cases in addition to all the DLC. That game bombed. Did they not learn their lesson? Well, this is Capcom, so the answer is probably no.
I can't even look at the amount right now. I can't even look at the amount. It hurts me. It hurts me to look at that amount. $8,000 for a game pre-order? Guys, we gave EA endless amounts of crap for a $120 bundle of a game pass or a season pass that had nothing in it. $120. That is fields above that. I love Devil May Cry. I do not need to wear a Dante jacket. It hurts me. And you want to know what hurts the most? Is somebody is going to send me an email saying they pre-ordered it. I need a minute.
I mean,
No, instead of spending $8,000 just for a jacket and a $60 game, I got a better idea. Save your money, get up to about $1 million, and on eBay right now, you can get 18,854 movies for $1 million. That's a way better investment of your cash than $8,000 for a jacket.
So, for the record, I reached out to my buddy who did make the Devil May Cry 3 Dante jacket. After seeing this story, and just asked him for the heck of it, like, because I knew he kept good records on cosplay that he'd made. Because this guy works in like makeup jobs for like film projects. Okay, so I knew he was gonna have to keep them for the books. I was like, when you made that, how much was it? And when he finally tallied it all down to all the material, and this was a project that, by the way, took a couple of years before it was done, and he was able to pull off his Devil May Cry 3 outfit. The jacket alone cost him about $1,000, and a lot of that was just because it has to be a leather trench coat kind of thing. You can't ignore that concept. That's how Dante dresses, and this guy likes to be as authentic as he could, but still. $1,000 over a couple of years to build that jacket. That is 1/8 of what Capcom is expecting you to buy right now. The diapers I could buy with that amount of money.
I mean, this kind of reminds me of some really, really high tier like Kickstarter goals, but those usually have a bit more to offer. Usually they'll fly you out and you can have dinner with them. I mean, this is just a jacket.
I mean, for crying out loud, like I saw like charity stuff go up on GoFundMe where if you donated this much money, like if it was upwards of $200, then you could get to have a Skype call from the person who needed the money, kind of thing. Like you get that as a personal thank you. I think H3H3 did this, didn't they? Where if you donated to them during their whole lawsuit, and if it was upwards of this amount of money, they would Skype call you and thank you, kind of thing. Yeah. So I mean, at that point, like that makes sense, but still, we're talking about like upwards of $200, people. We're still not at the even the barest minimum price tag that Capcom is requiring. $5,300. We're not even there when we're talking pre-orders, people. What on earth, Capcom, makes you think people are going to buy that? And then, of course, I say that, and then eventually we're going to find out somebody bought it.
Somebody will.
Somebody will. And according to the story, at least the original story that IGN is pulling from, so far, this edition is limited to Japan. So it's not even actually, there's no guarantee that this is actually coming to the United States or even to Europe. As far as we know, this is Japan exclusive, at least looking at the original article that reported the story in Eurogamer. And so the thing is that although we in America tend to be a bit more frugal when it comes to purchases, this is why Gundam doesn't have as much of a foothold here in the States as it does in Japan. Yeah. Japan, you have those insane collectors who are willing to basically drop the cost of an entire house payment for a frickin' jacket.
Okay, so it's gonna be okay there, Adam. Well, he has this panic attack there. I just did a quick conversion here. So if this is Japanese, then obviously it's going to be Japanese yen. So $8,000 is 895,020 yen and 3 cents.
Oh, that does not help with the numbers, Alex.
Yeah, looking at the actual
in Japan, basically what you're saying, this went from 4-digit to 6-digit.
Yeah, looking at the Eurogamer article, they actually have the yen prices. And so the yen price for the Dante edition is 900,000 yen. For Nero, it's 750,000 yen. And for V, it is 600,000 yen. So, yeah, it is 6 figures.
Jibbity Christmas, people. I must be the old fart here because I can't even understand paying like over $100 for a pre-order. Like a lot of my ideal pre-order things that I wish I could have gotten, like way back when the Horizon Zero Dawn Collector's Edition happened, and I wasn't able to get that because we didn't have space for the statue and everything like that. That was upwards of $100, and I was considering that. But anything that has taken me above 200, I'm not willing to do, because at that point I'm not that committed. And this is coming from a guy who has paid for World of Warcraft collector's editions for $100. But at least I can say with that, like, I get behind the scenes DVDs, I get full on access into the creative process, I get a soundtrack, I get lots of goodies that come with that for $100. For $8,000, you get a jacket, nothing more. And I'm literally just sitting there going, dude, the worst part about this, you spent $8,000 for a Dante jacket that you wore at one convention and then put up in the styrofoam wrap in your closet and never touched it ever again. And trust me, I know a few cosplayers that do that. Like they will make the cosplay once, and then maybe every couple of years they'll dig it out so that it looks original again. But most of the time it's just up there in that in that dry clean kind of plastic, and it just sits there.
Jeez, you think they'd at least put it in a glass case or something.
Something to that effect, but like that's the thing. It sits there and it rots in your closet. That's what it does. For $8,000, you just bought a jacket that is going to rot away in your closet. Ouch. I don't even know what was the total amount for that Resident Evil 6 thing, Romney. It wasn't 8,000.
No, it was 899 pounds. Let's crunch the numbers real quick.
That's still going to be a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, so pounds to dollars conversion. Come on, DuckDuckGo, work with me. There we go. Okay, so 899. Holy. Okay, adjusting for inflation, the edition with the frickin' jacket and the tablet cases and all the DLC, if they sold that today, it would cost $1,152.99 in US currency. Now that's adjusting for inflation.
And again, that is just ridiculous. Like, I'm a gamer and I love me my video games and I love me my anime. I love me my TV. I am not willing to spend more than $200 for something that I love. I really am not. And from what you guys have kind of explained, neither are you. So like, Capcom, you are out of your bleeping mind. You have dared to be stupid. But hey, you've done it before. You're going to do it again in the future. I guess that's the way that you want to go about it. So final thoughts on this one before we wrap up for the evening, because I literally have no words.
Again, save your money. Get the 18,000 movies on eBay. It's someone's entire collection for $1 million. At least you'll get way more use out of that than you will a jacket.
Jeez. Ronnie?
Well, I guess we could say, I mean, as the song itself goes, this whole thing pulled Adam's devil trigger.
It in fact did. It really did. And I didn't even get my devil form, so that sucks. Even more for me. All right. Well, unfortunately, we have almost run out of time for this evening, so we need to go ahead and wrap things up. We thank you guys so much for watching the podcast. And if you want to be able to reach out to us to not only check out the content that we provide, but also be able to ask us questions about the stories we covered tonight or we covered in the past, Alex the Shadow Blazer, how do they contact you?
Find me on YouTube. Shadow Blazer 3000 is my channel, and I do anime stuff here. And find me on Twitter, social media, at Alex J. Short, and you'll always be alerted to when I put up a new video.
All right. And I would also just like to point out to everybody that as soon as he gets a P.O. box, you all need to send him seasons of My Hero Academia and saying, review this, please. Which he will never do. Which he will never do. That's the sad reality here. Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah. If people want to be able to get a hold of you and also be able to check out your recommendation for this week, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can always find me under my handle, Studio Ghost Utah. That is my handle both on Facebook and on YouTube, as I do upload to both when I actually have something to upload that isn't currently burning its way out of my eyeballs as I try to finish it. And you can also find me on Instagram under Romney Does Art. It currently has mostly pictures of bagels and cats. I am hoping to change that in the near future. More on that later. And I am also on Twitter, which is probably the best way to get a hold of me, the best way to send me any sort of recommendation. Seriously, Adams has got 2 kids. Let's give the guy a break. And so
I sorely need one.
Yes, and so my handle on Twitter is Romney Reviews. So to reiterate, on YouTube and Facebook, Studio Ghost Utah. On Instagram, Romney Does Art. And on Twitter, at Romney Reviews. And as for this week's Romney's recommendation, I'm a little bit late to the party, mainly because out of desperation of needing to be able to both listen to music and also listen to my GPS, I ended up trying the trial for YouTube Premium. And so one thing I've been taking the opportunity to check out is Cobra Kai, the sequel series to the Karate Kid trilogy. How much of a sequel it is kind of depends on your interpretation, since they only really seem to acknowledge the first 2 films. Well, they acknowledge the third, they don't acknowledge the fourth, and, well, Jaden Smith is nowhere near this, but Will Smith is a producer. And I didn't like it at first, but after episode 2, it's actually got me pretty hooked. You can tell the people behind the show do care about the source material and even call out some of the plot holes from the original for comedic effect. So that's this week's Romney's recommendation. Yeah, it's an oldie, but I've been enjoying it, and that is the Cobra Kai mini-series, available on YouTube through YouTube Premium. So if you haven't done a trial yet, sign up for the trial, binge watch the series, and then cancel the trial, and you'll be good.
All right. And if people want to be able to get a hold of me, the best way to be able to do so is on Twitter, and that is Drac2326 on Twitter. And you can be able to ask the questions to me. You can also check out my YouTube channel, which you are on right now. And I would ask that you do that, even though the schedule has kind of slowed down. There is actually stuff coming soon, especially to you Diablo fans. In case you guys missed my tweet yesterday, the end is coming, and it's coming soon. So you guys can check that out soon. If you want to be able to get a hold of the podcast directly, there are a couple of ways to be able to do it. First of all, if you want to submit stories or submit your feedback, you can do so at geekyweek@gmail.com. And above all else, we would ask that you support us on the RSS feed, which is geekyweek.podomatic.com, or you can look us up on iTunes under the name GNRO Podcast, or on iTunes or Google Play for Android users. And that's the best way to be able to support this. If you want to support us on social media, you can do so under the exact same tagline for both Twitter and Facebook. If you look up Geeky NRO, you'll be able to get access to our pages, and you'll be able to get up to the minute information when we're going live. If we have any events going on that particular week, maybe we'll work something out so Romney's recommendations can make it into that thread. Who knows? There's going to be tons of stuff there coming, and plenty of announcements coming down the pike as the holidays draw ever nearer. And also, I forgot to mention this. If you want to be able to check out my channel on Facebook, you can do so under the heading Drac LP. I always forget to be able to do that one, but there you go. That's the best ways to be able to get a hold of us. And that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this roller coaster of stupid that is the news this week. We thank you guys so much for your continued love, support, and patience for the podcast. And we will be back next week for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions. So for me, for Alex, and for Romney, we'll see you guys next time.